All right, let's dive into a question that's becoming more and more relevant today. In a world where so many women are part of the workforce, what happens financially when a marriage comes to an end? Does having a paycheck automatically mean a husband's financial responsibility is just wiped clean? Well, we're about to unpack a landmark legal case that gives a really surprising answer. So, this is really the heart of the matter. When a marriage dissolves, does a wife's salary mean she's completely on her own? Or does the standard of living, the lifestyle she was accustomed to during the marriage, still count for something? The answer, it turns out, is wrapped up in the true story of one family whose personal dispute went all the way to the Supreme Court. So let's meet the people at the center of our story, Anu and Rajeev Kaul. After they separated, the really thorny question of money, well, that turned into a full-blown legal battle. And it was a fight that would climb all the way up the judicial ladder to the highest court in India. Okay, so looking at the numbers here really paints a picture of two completely different worlds. On one hand, you have Anu. She's working, she's earning 9,000 rupees a month. But right off the bat, a full third of that, 3,000 rupees, goes straight to paying rent. Then you have Rajiv. As a senior head at a major company, he's bringing in over 4 times her salary. And that's not even counting the huge corporate perks, like having their child's education completely paid for. So you do the math, and that's a difference of 31,000 rupees every single month. This massive gap in their earning power is the financial reality sitting right at the center of this entire case. Faced with this situation, Anu went to court, and she asked for two main things under the law. First, a one-time payment of 22,000 rupees to cover her legal fees, and second, 10,000 rupees a month in what's called interim maintenance, which is basically temporary financial support to help her get by while all the divorce proceedings are being sorted out. But her legal journey was an uphill battle right from the get-go. The first court she went to, the trial court, said no to her personal request. Their logic was pretty simple. Hey, she has a job, so she doesn't need his support. They did give 2,000 rupees a month for their daughter's care, and when the case went to the High Court, they basically said the same thing. Anu's final shot was the Supreme Court. And this is where the story gets really interesting, because the Supreme Court didn't just give a simple thumbs up or thumbs down. Instead, they delivered a really nuanced two-part verdict that would honestly end up changing the whole conversation around maintenance. So first up, the decision for Anu herself. The court looked at her income of 9,000 rupees and decided that for this temporary interim phase, it was enough for her to live on. So, just like the lower courts, they denied her personal request for maintenance. But then came the twist. When it came to their daughter, the court took a completely different approach. They more than doubled the child's maintenance, bumping it up from 2,000 all the way to 5,000 rupees a month. So get this, while the wife's personal claim was denied, the child's needs were suddenly front and center. So, why the big jump in child support? Well, the Supreme Court was super clear about its reasoning. They looked at the reality of the situation, things like the high cost of a good education and the fact that this child's father was a high-ranking executive. Their logic was that the daughter should be supported in a way that reflects her family's social standing and lifestyle. At the end of the day, they said, the child's welfare is the most important thing, period. And out of this verdict came this really powerful legal idea. It's the single most important thing to take away from this whole case. It's what lawyers and judges now call the adequacy test. You see, the adequacy of income test completely shifts the conversation. The question is no longer just, is the wife earning money? Yes or no? The real question, the one the court has to answer, is the money she's earning enough? Is it sufficient for her to live a dignified life, a life that's comparable to the one she had during the marriage? It's a huge shift from a simple yes-no question to a much more thoughtful case-by-case analysis. And the court really drove this point home with a statement that cuts right to the heart of it. Maintenance isn't a handout. It's not charity. It's a right. It's about making sure that one person isn't left in a terrible financial spot just because a marriage has ended. So you might be thinking, why are we talking about a case from 2009? Why does it still matter so much? Because the principles from Anu Kaul versus Rajeev Kaul, they didn't just stay in that one courtroom. They created legal ripples that are still being felt across India today. You can literally see the influence spread over time. That adequacy test from this 2009 case, it became a legal benchmark. It was cited in another major case in 2015, and then again in 2020 in the huge Rajneesh versus Neha case, which actually set brand new comprehensive guidelines for all maintenance cases in the country.
The Kauls' personal story helped build the legal road for everyone who came after.
So let's just recap the final numbers here. What did it all boil down to financially? For her own personal support, Anu Kaul received 0. But for their daughter, the support paid by the father jumped by 150%, from 2,000 rupees all the way up to 5,000 rupees a month.
So, what are the big lessons here? Well, first, and this is huge, just because a wife is working, it doesn't automatically mean she gets nothing. The real question is whether her income is adequate. Second, we saw crystal clear that a child's needs, and that includes their lifestyle, are a massive priority for the court. It all comes back to the idea that maintenance should reflect the family's standard of living, with the court trying to strike a fair balance in a really tough situation. And really, this whole story leaves us with a bigger question, one that goes way beyond the courtroom. As our society keeps evolving, how do we, and how should our laws, balance the drive for individual financial independence with the shared standard of living that people build together during a marriage? There's definitely no easy answer, but it's something worth thinking about. Thanks for joining us.